So on the bench here I have this little chain stitch machine. I was given a few antique machines in various states of disrepair. This one, the person that gave it to me said that it might be German, which I don't know, but it did. And I just lost it. Oh, there we go. It does have 91270 child sewing machine. Allegan County Fair, first place, was hanging off of it when I was given this machine. I don't actually know anything else about this, so I'm gonna have to do some more research. But the first thing I noticed is that it's got this little space underneath it, and however it's been stored, it has rusted up the hook for the chain stitch, so I'm gonna have to take that out and get that polished up, because definitely the looper and hook for your chain stitch has to be alright. I need to get better fitting screwdrivers for this. I also have a suspicion that this machine is out of time. It was a display piece and it is very, very dusty. I wiped a lot of dust off, but it's still got a lot of dust on it. But when I turn the machine, the hook here is at the top to grab a new loop when the needle bar is also at the top. And then the needle bar is down and this hook is most of the way around for another loop. So that is clearly not correct timing, and the presser foot has a cut in it, so you lift it and it shifts the side, and that is very stiff from sitting. So but yeah, let's see now, is there is a set screw to hold the hook on this machine. There we go. That looper is just so rusty. I'm gonna have to polish that up real well before we can try to make this run. We'll see what we can do with it after that. But looks like the feed dogs are also pretty rusty under here, so I'm gonna see about taking those off and cleaning those up. So I wonder more of the machine isn't rusty. So the main feed dog screw didn't want to come out, but maybe this screw that they ride on. Oh yeah, that's coming out. Those feed dogs, horrifically rusty, so I'm gonna soak those and clean them and polish them up. Just keep going here. Oh, okay, so this piece can't come off until the feed plate comes up. Appears to be a serial number on here, and underneath there might be a stamp. Oh no, that's just that. So, does it say 78044 for the serial number? Which doesn't help me if that's not a model number. I don't know what it'll do for me, but I have to clean that plate up as well. Take this back and then Looks like the lifter for the presser foot is brass, so if I decide to use any de-rusto stuff, I'll have to make sure and be careful of that, because the rust converting evaporust and stuff, that all eats, or that can attack non-ferrous metals. So, but I don't think I'll need to go that hard on this. Since we're in here, oh good, there's a should have expected that, but there's a drop, or there's a set screw in the needle bar, so that's good. Alright, I think that's all I'm going to take off of this. And then I'll just wipe it down from here, and I really should figure out, I'm going to go look and see if I can figure out what the manufacturer of this machine might have been. So, alright, I polished this looper hook, if we can get the, there we go, with a Scotch-Brite puff on a Dremel, and I actually kind of polished all the parts for this with the Scotch-Brite on the Dremel. So let's get this back together. I also looked online and asked around online, and it's consensus, and it's very similar to the Muller number 12 toy sewing machine. So I'm going to assume that this is a Muller number 12. Start with, that's the top shaft. Here's our bottom shaft, so I'm going to put our bottom shaft in. There weren't any washers in here for bearing surfaces or anything. I'm kind of suspicious of that, but I'm going to assemble this with the gear flush on the shaft here, which does provide a lot of rattle back and forth, but I think when I get the, I'll make a decision about that as we're adjusting it and see what happens. Got this. This screw holding the feed dogs had both washers in the spring, but the spring was not like connected to anything, and I should figure out where that spring may have hooked. I think yeah. I'll take one of these washers out. Because this bolt has a shoulder on it, so I want to be able to screw it all the way down tight to slide for the there we go. The second washer was preventing this from sliding properly. Now I think hook that there. If we hook the spring on the feed dogs, then that forces the feed dogs to hop forward like they're supposed to, and then this stitch length adjuster just provides a bumper for how far forward they can go. Alright. So that's set that aside and see if we want to use it for something else, because I don't know if this machine was properly assembled when I got it. There is a flat on the looper, so we'll put the set screw against the flat on the looper. I've already changed my mind about this gear on the end, so I guess haven't changed my mind about that. I don't want this to stick out because I think it'll rub on the crank wheel here, but we'll have to check that as we go. Alright, and we'll get our top shaft in. Again, I'm going to put that shaft in with the gear flat, and that also, with the gear shaft flat on the end here, that also makes the front of the shaft even with the face of our crank yoke area. So I think that's the secret, and that's why the spring is off of here. It keeps popping apart. I wonder if there's a hole or someplace it could go. Oh, okay. Now we'll get our needle bar in place, and there is a pinhole for the crank for the needle bar, so turn that and line it up. And start tightening our set screw, and then wiggle the needle bar to make sure that the set screw is as centered as possible in that hole, and then put the set screw in. And take this back and get the... Oh. I'm supposed to put the presser foot in before I put the feed dogs back on. Okay, so presser foot, lifter, spring, all in place. Now I can put this that's back in place. Now needle bar and our presser foot back in place. Feed plate back down. Oh, like, have a screw that I forgot where it came from, and it's the screw that holds this cover on the underside there. So that has two leather washers to provide the friction to hold it, to make the to make this door rotate. There, and then that door covers our hook, and it rotates out of the way for you to access the hook to time it. Okay, now because this rotates, the presser foot rotates, we have to line up our presser foot with the slot for the needle and lift the holder a teeny bit before we tighten it, so that when it gets all the way down there's a tiny gap here to make sure that there's pressure on the presser foot. Alright, and throw our tensioner back together real quick. I don't have the correct needle for this. I have a needle that I guessed at for a length, and it did not have a needle set screw in it when I got it, so I had to find a screw that fits the hole. I don't actually know but I found a screw that holds the needle, and to time the machine, the needle bar has a simple up and down motion, so it just needs to make sure that you've got the needle at the lowest point and the hook just rotating up like one gear tooth ahead of where the needle is. And that way the needle will be pulling up the teeniest bit to make the thread loop and pop it in over the hook. And with those two in the correct spot, I polished this shaft, but it's a bit tight, so I'm gonna get some fresh oil down in there before I put this on. There you go. A teeny bit of oil is all the magic that needed. Alright. Now with both those shafts in place. Holding on the end here. Now the shaft had a bend in it, which is clearly it was bent so that the handle would ride. Okay, there's the dents from the set screws, so we'll rotate that. There. Rotate the shaft so that the dents from the set screw are facing the set screw. I don't want to have to straighten that shaft, so if I can just get it to run. No, that shaft is too bent. Okay. I'm going to have to figure out how to straighten this shaft. Rats. I was hoping that if I could line the bend up. Alright. Let's try lining the bend up like that. So as you can see, this handle is bent, but because that shaft is bent, but because the bend is facing straight back this way, the two gears are coplanar along the crank roughly, so that should work relatively well. And maybe I'll get to worrying about that, but let's make sure that we've got. Of course, as soon as let's see, my needle is actually in a good spot. Let's just get it rotated to match up. Alright, I got the feed dogs adjusted and put this in place. And I cut a notch for the spring to sit in, and so the spring is not popping out of place. And now, with this little machine threaded and our needle properly aligned,